All right, hey, it's Rob, and I haven't generated any Michael Jackson content in a minute. I thought this would be a good day because I was messing around on Google Street View, and I saw that you can actually take a little virtual tour down the alley where Michael would have driven up to the back of the studio called Record one of the three studios where Michael Jackson recorded the Dangerous record. That's the studio I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you pull up there and tell you a few stories related to the time that I worked with Michael. If you haven't seen my other videos, I happen to just be a studio employee who worked at this studio during the time when Michael was recording Dangerous. I did nothing important. I went and picked up lunch. Occasionally, I would help out in a very minimal way in the studio to set up microphone stands or chairs or things like that before the studio started. I was in the studio once in a while when things were being recorded, mostly when I had to walk in and take a lunch order or something. I didn't spend much time in the room. I could hear all the music coming through the door, but like I said, my role was not important, very minimal, but I was there pretty much for the whole time he was recording Dangerous at our studio, again, which is called Record One. It's on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks. It's still there. Dr. Dre owned it last I heard, but that could be old information. He had it locked out, meaning nobody else could record there for a number of years, and then I believe it opened up again a few years ago. Not really sure of the recent history of it. This was, of course, many years ago, between 1990 and 1992 or so, when Dangerous was released. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've got the record, of course, right here, and this is good old Dangerous with its creepy cover. And like I said, Dangerous was recorded mainly at three different studios. The first one is Westlake Audio, where Thriller and Bad were done. He did a little bit of like pre-production beforehand there, and maybe some of the demos, and maybe a few things that made it on the record. I'm not really sure, but the bulk was recorded at this studio, Record One, that I'm going to talk about. At some point, he moved on from Record One and he moved to a studio called Larrabee when Teddy Riley came into the picture. So all the Teddy Riley, or most of the Teddy Riley songs, were recorded at a separate studio, Larrabee. But if we look at the back cover here, I can tell you that the songs recorded at Record One were definitely Jam. He worked on that. He did Heal the World, basically all the songs with the big orchestral score where they needed multiple musicians, string sections, or multiple people singing in a choir or whatever. They recorded in the big room there at Record One, and I'll show you that in a minute. Black or White, recorded mainly at Record One. Who Is It? Give In To Me. I was actually there when they started recording Give In To Me, and when it was kind of a demo and it started to become a fully fleshed out song. So that was one of the rare times I actually was in the studio and got to watch a little bit of the guitar recording for the song Give In To Me, not with Slash, but with Bill Bottrell, the engineer and producer, who also played the main guitar part on Give In To Me. Will You Be There, Keep the Faith, Gone Too Soon, Dangerous, I think side 4. I think we did all those at Record One. And if we dig around here, this is, by the way, the cool, can it come out? Gray vinyl version. I don't remember where that came from, Target or Walmart or something or other. But Michael was actually nice enough, if you read this panel right here, and I don't know if you can see, or I can, get it to focus or whatever, but somewhere around there is my name, and he was nice enough to put the name of all of the studio runners, the gophers, all of the incidental people who weren't important, the receptionists and all that kind of stuff. Very unlikely that this would have happened, but he insisted on it, and so if you read that panel there, my name is on there somewhere or other. Anyway, so let's go to the Google Street View, and I will narrate and tell you a few stories, and you'll see exactly where Michael Jackson recorded, I would say, the bulk of the Dangerous record. Like I said, after maybe a year and a half, they moved on for maybe the last 6 months and mainly recorded at the studio Larrabee with Teddy Riley. But the bulk of what was done, at least like the basic tracks and A lot of the instrumental work and a lot of Michael's vocals, of course, were recorded at this Record One studio on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks, California. And let's see what it looks like. All right, and this is it, the back alley of Record One recording studios. You can see the whole thing right there. Of course, you see the big room to the left is the main studio, Studio B, where Michael did most of his vocals and recorded a lot of the tracks that ended up on the Dangerous record. That door right there that I'm going to zoom in on, that was his private entrance. So he had a private special room in the back just with a couch, and he would take phone calls and probably take naps or change his clothes or whatever back in there. And that's how he got in through that door, although he stopped parking in the back. You see where that van is? He used to park there at least towards the beginning of the sessions, and then he decided to park inside the studio. Of course, people figured out he was there, and they started sneaking up in the alley and bugging him. That door right there, that is access to the studio where you could load in drum sets and things like that. That was also the site of my first conversation with Michael, because he dragged me outside and he said, "Robbie, there's a vagabond. There's a vagabond in the alley." There was a guy drinking a beer out of a paper bag. I had to tell him to go away. Anyway, there's the gate right there where Michael would drive in and we would buzz him in. He'd call. There's a little call box there to the left. And we'll take a look over the gate, which we can actually see here in a second. And you can see the entrance to Record One Recording Studios. So off to the right there, that's where you would walk in. And this area here where the two cars are is where he would park his GMC Jimmy. He had a special Jimmy with 2 fuel tanks, so he could leave right from here, drive all the way up to Neverland Ranch without stopping. I had to fill it up with gas a few times. He would hand me his credit card, and off I would go. This is a very different time, ladies and gentlemen. People didn't question that kind of stuff. Anyway, so that's the whole view of the parking lot there where we would all park, and Michael would park. Bruce Swedeen would park next to him in those 2 covered spaces. And that was the story of Michael driving to the studio, which he did for a few months, and then he gave up when he had some trouble and a couple accidents. This is Madelia Street, I believe, Madelia, and it's pretty much the same. On the corner, there's a little sign shop that you can see there. We can look back towards the alley where he would drive in, and then we're going to come around the front of the building and show you what Record One looks like from Ventura Boulevard. So coming around the corner here and up the road again, looks pretty similar. The building next to it wasn't there, but this is the driveway of Record One originally, where you could drive through. You can see they put boards up and made a wall and walled it off so it was private. And you can see where you could have driven in, but you can't anymore. And it's been like that for many years. All right, and towards this side of the studio, this was Studio A, was a smaller studio where Brian Loren did a lot of the work on Dangerous that didn't end up on the record, but that's where he was. You can see this kind of part of the studio here next to this little space here, which was still there, and this thing next to it, which was still the same. It's this curtain sales and curtain cleaning place, and it's still there just like it was back 30 years ago. And we'll head up the road a bit more. There's a little mini mall, which was there 30 years ago, and a 7-Eleven where we used to stop. But here is the famous McDonald's, where I've told this story many times. One day, Michael must have noticed there was a McDonald's down the street, and he said, Robbie, can you get McDonald's? I said, okay, sure, Michael. What do you want? He said, I don't know what they have. So I said, Michael, even 5-year-olds know what's on the menu at McDonald's. So we ended up getting, one of everything, putting it on a tray, and he nibbled a chicken McNugget, and he took a bite out of a hamburger, and then he tried filet of fish, and he said, oh, I like that. So then we knew that from then on we could just go to McDonald's and pick him up a filet of fish sandwich whenever he was hungry for McDonald's. All right, just spinning back around here on Ventura, you can see what the street looks like around the location of the recording studio. I'm going to wrap it up here. I found an older photo on Google Street View, and this actually shows what it looked like when I was there. There's a little door you could walk in from the street. It was green back then, and you can see the Record One sign was still up. This thing was made out of like styrofoam and painted, and people used to poke holes in it, and so eventually they just decided, forget it, I guess it started to look really bad, and they took it down. All right. that's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Later.